Twitter says it has sent out emails to all of its employees determining their fate in or out of the company. In response, some of its employees filed a class action lawsuit alleging the company laying off employees on such a short notice is illegal.
I'm outside of Twitter headquarters. Layoff emails were said to have been delivered to employees by 9 a.m. this morning. Also, during this time, Twitter has temporarily closed its offices as well as employees' access to internal systems. Ahead of the emails, 5 former and current Twitter employees filed a class action lawsuit against the company on Thursday. They allege that after Elon Musk took over, the social media giant violated laws that require a 60-day notice for mass layoffs. That's according to the Federal Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. California also has a law requiring employers to notify employees 60 days in advance of firings. Twitter temporarily closed its offices on Friday after telling employees they would be informed by email later in the day about whether they are being laid off or not. Benjamin Bader, Associate Professor of International Human Resources Management at the University of Newcastle, shared his views with Reuters on the company's layoffs for the remaining employees.
Could this be done in a better way from my perspective? Certainly, yes. One thing for sure could be to have personal conversations. The other thing could be a little bit more time. So the takeover has happened like last week. And then the announcement we're going to lay off half of the workforce is going to have a tremendous effect on the communication and the way this is handled.
According to Reuters, Musk is looking to cut around 3,700 Twitter staff, or about half the workforce, as he seeks to slash costs and impose a new work ethic. Jason Blair, NTD News, San Francisco.
Despite the lawsuit, Elon Musk may have a bigger issue on his hands in terms of operating his new social media giant. Twitter has been difficult to monetize in recent years. A wealth manager talked about what the company will be facing in terms of making a profit under its new leadership. Now that Elon Musk is at the helm of Twitter, there are financial considerations ahead. He'll have to face debt from the $44 billion sale and shareholders looking to make a profit. That's according to Daniel Ives, a managing director at Wedbush Securities, a wealth management firm.
He faces pressure on a multitude of areas. One, revenue pressure. How do you monetize Twitter as a platform? That's really been the treadmill that we've seen over the last decade in terms of as a social media platform. And then it's ultimately cost cutting. I mean, can you cut costs and monetize? That is a very fine balance he's going to have to strike. At the same time, trying to bring advertisers back onto the platform that you're ultimately trying to do freedom of speech. That is almost an impossible task. And these are all what I view as almost the Everest-like uphill battle he has with Twitter.
Recently had a lot of difficulty with activist groups pressuring major advertisers to stop spending money on Twitter. This is despite us doing everything possible to appease them and to make it clear that moderation rules and hateful conduct rules have not changed, and we're continuing to enforce them. A number of major advertisers have stopped spending on Twitter. This doesn't seem right because we've made no change in our operations at all, and but nonetheless, the activist groups have been successful in causing a massive drop in Twitter advertising revenue, and we've done our absolute best to appease them, and nothing is working. So this is a major concern, and I think this is frankly an attack on the First Amendment. If activist groups can pressure advertisers upon which Twitter is fundamentally dependent to suppress free speech, then that doesn't seem right.
This comes as major advertisers have threatened to withdraw from the platform, being concerned about free speech. General Mills Incorporated and luxury automaker Audi of America said on Thursday they have paused advertising on Twitter.
I think right now advertisers are being cautious, arm's length, trying to figure out what the platform is going to represent. Twitter's problem for the last 4 or 5 years has been its lack of ability to monetize. Advertisers, engagement. Musk is ultimately trying to bring advertisers back on. But $44 billion is still going to go down as probably one of the most overpaid tech transactions in the history of M&A.
Twitter was having pretty serious revenue challenges and cost challenges before the acquisition talks started. And any company that is dependent on advertising has had a hard time. So if you look at, say, Snap or Google, Facebook, whatnot, they've all had a difficult time with advertising revenue dropping. And Twitter is currently more vulnerable than they are to advertising, because most of Twitter's advertising is large brand advertising as opposed to direct response. So it's kind of like a much more of a discretionary ad spend than it is for like if you can do direct response for a specific product.
Ives commented on the starkly different work atmosphere that Musk may bring to the cushy Bay Area office.
Twitter is a core San Francisco high-tech company. I think it's one that's always been very good to their employees, whether it's ping pong and, ultimately employee lunches. Musk is the exact opposite. I mean, it's a much different type of culture, I think, that he's instilled at Tesla, at SpaceX. And that's why Musk and Twitter could not be more opposite when it comes to corporate culture.
He added that the class action lawsuit that the company is now facing likely won't concern Musk, but operational differences may.
Look, for Musk, lawsuits are almost like drinking a cup of coffee in the morning. And I think it's something where culturally you cannot have polar opposites than Musk and the Twitter DNA. And I think now we're seeing that all play out in terms of the cost cutting, how he's ultimately going to do it. And I think it just shows it's going to be some tough times ahead for Twitter employees and for that company.
Other concerns about the buyout remain, such as the company fading into obscurity as other online giants of the past have.
I think there's concerns that Twitter could go down that MySpace AOL route. And I think that's part of the worry here, is that when you cut to this point, there's a dicey point over the next 3 to 6 months where if you lose engagement, you lose advertisers, you lose verified users that don't want to pay the $8 per month. I mean, it could really be, I think, a pretty nerve-wracking time in terms of the Twitter platform.
According to tweets from Twitter's staff, people who worked in engineering, communications, as well as product and content curation were among those impacted by the layoffs. After talking about the changes that Elon Musk is facing with Twitter, he also has some solutions. One of those is charging $8 for the verified blue check mark. That's partly to combat a widespread claim of influence on the service: bots.
On Tuesday, Elon Musk made an official announcement that Twitter will be launching a new blue subscription option, which will include the blue check mark next to the user's name, as well as special features and privileges. Musk elaborated that one of the reasons for the move is it's, quote, the only way to defeat the bots and trolls.
Part of what I'm trying to achieve with this sort of enabling everyone to be payment verified with Twitter Blue is to try to get as many people payment verified as possible.
One of the issues brought up in the process of Musk's acquisition of Twitter was the amount of bot accounts on the platform. This topic is a concern for advertisers and can affect the quality of a user's experience in general. During talks with Musk, Twitter maintained the claim that less than 5% of accounts were fake. However, other studies, like one by social media monitoring company Cyabra, concluded around 11%. One by former FBI and CIA cybersecurity specialist Dan Woods showed as much as 80% of Twitter users are likely bots. Musk tweeted that the subscription will cost $8 a month, and in addition to the blue check mark next to your name, you will get priority in replies, mentions, and search, which is essential to defeat spam or scam, ability to post long video and audio, and half as many ads. Musk also mentioned that the subscription price will be adjusted by country proportionate to purchasing power parity. The blue checkmark originally has been given to accounts of public figures to help verify that they are genuinely who they say they are. Musk tweeted that there will be an additional tag on accounts for someone who is a public figure, like what is already being used for government accounts.
The governor announced a pause on all new homeless program funding. That's $1 billion that was going to be shared among every county in the state. One expert talked about what could be done differently with the current homelessness alleviation model.
On November 3rd, Governor Gavin Newsom announced that he's pausing the third round of grants to local jurisdictions in addressing homelessness. The third round of the grants provides a share of $1 billion to every county continuum of care and the 13 largest cities in the state. It requires recipients to have a homelessness action plan to prevent and reduce homelessness at the community level. Newsom said, "As a state, we are failing to meet the urgency of this moment. Collectively, these plans set a goal to reduce street homelessness 2% statewide by 2024. At this pace, it would take decades to significantly curb homelessness in California. This approach is simply unacceptable." Zach Southall, founder of Charity on Wheels, a homeless outreach nonprofit in Orange County, talked about the results he sees with the existing programs.
I have to say I'm pleased that they want to do more. That's a wonderful thing, to help our brothers and sisters on the street. In my mind, it hasn't been successful. They spent a lot of money, and what do we have to show for it?
He says some of the current approaches in tackling homelessness haven't been bearing fruit. One condition of the grants is that each jurisdiction must submit a plan to reduce homelessness and increase permanent housing to the state for approval. Southall focuses on self-reliance, reaching out to homeless individuals and transforming their lives. He says there are good programs that work on personal responsibility.
If you put a bunch of drug addicts in a house, what could go wrong? People need to start changing their behaviors and taking, again, personal responsibility. I keep harping on this. If they don't do that first, before you put someone into a house, a taxpayer paid facility or home, I think you're just jumping on that merry-go-round. Again, they're just going to fall back off it.
Newsom plans to convene local leaders in mid-November to identify new strategies in reducing homelessness on the streets. Southall would like the focus to be on the vulnerable groups.
We've had to focus our resources in on those most vulnerable who are, we've got so many seniors now living in their cars or living in the park, and we've got so many single moms living in hotels and motels and their cars with kids, and it's untenable. So it needs to change. So I'm cautiously optimistic that maybe the focus will be pushed. Moved a little bit towards those folks.
According to Newsom's office, the state provided over $1.5 billion through the Homeless Emergency Aid Program, and the additional $1 billion will be held off until the November meeting. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Police arrested a suspect responsible for a catalytic converter theft in the Bay Area. The suspect also opened fire at another person. The arrest highlighted a national effort to combat catalytic converter theft.
The Alameda County District Attorney's Office charged a 28-year-old man on Monday with 2 counts of grand theft and felon in possession of a firearm. In early October, 2 suspects stole 2 catalytic converters from vehicles in Berkeley. One suspect fired a handgun at a witness. Through surveillance footage in the area, detectives were able to track the stolen vehicle abandoned in Oakland. They found ammunition, ski masks, and saw blades. Detectives arrested the suspect on October 27th. On November 2nd, the Department of Justice announced a nationwide takedown of catalytic converter theft rings. The Eastern District of California charged 9 defendants with a 40-count indictment that included conspiracy to transport stolen catalytic converters, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and other related charges. 3 of them operated an unlicensed business from their Sacramento home. They bought stolen catalytic converters from thieves and sold over $38 million worth to New Jersey-based DG Auto for processing. Similarly, the Northern District of Oklahoma charged 13 individuals for illegally buying and selling catalytic converters to the same New Jersey business. DG Auto sold the precious metals elsewhere to a metal refinery for over $545 million. According to FBI Director Christopher Wray, they made hundreds of millions of dollars in the process, on the backs of thousands of innocent car owners. Today's charges showcase how the FBI and its partners act together to stop crimes that hurt all too many Americans. In total, 21 individuals were charged in 5 states for the conspiracy. Law enforcement executed over 32 search warrants, seized millions of dollars in assets, including homes, bank accounts, cash, and luxury vehicles.